What's up, guys? Welcome to A Reseller's Life. My name is Chris. Thank you so much for joining me. This is my Reseller Spotlight series where I interview resellers and ask them how they plan their day, tips and tricks, best practices to help you guys develop your business at home or wherever you are listening. So I appreciate you guys' time. Like, comment, and subscribe. Today I have Mess Hall. How's it going? Tell us where you live, how long you've been reselling.
Outstanding. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me. Much love. I've been following you for a while since you were 10K on the Bay. I live in Tennessee right now. I'm originally from the Bay Area. I was born in San Leandro.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Hayward, Oakland, El Cerrito. The Ashby flea markets. I don't know if you've heard of the Ashby flea
Mm-hmm.
markets, but that's where I grew up, man. That's where I spent my childhood. So this thrifting, flea market game has kind of been in my blood my whole life. And now I got my kids into it now. Like they won't even shop at the mall anymore. They want to go to Plato's Closet or the thrift store with me. And that's how they style themselves for school. So I think it's rubbed off on them and I think it's fantastic. But like I said, hey, it was cold today. It's very cold in Tennessee. So that's weird.
So let's talk about maybe what is great about living in Tennessee, what makes reselling hard or great where you are.
So I think I have a lot of advantages being here in Tennessee. I'm close to Nashville, and there's two Goodwill bins in Nashville, which
Mm.
is really cool because I know in a lot of places they're not even close to where a Goodwill bin is, and I'm fortunate enough to have two. The antique game is really good out here too, especially on the Kentucky side. There's a lot of antique stores, and I try to let people in on the antique game. Like, hey, antiques, don't sleep on antique stores. It's not just dolls and old desks in there. There are a lot of things in the antique stores. And a lot of times with these older antique sellers, you can catch them slipping sometimes. Like they don't know how to price their stuff very well. So I've gotten a lot of really good scores in the antique shops. I have a Goodwill that's like 5 miles from my house. We have a Salvation Army. Um, and we have like TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Burlington. Like we have all the sources you could want in my area. So I think I'm in a really good spot and I have a lot of advantages with that.
Sorry, let's talk about what platforms you focus on. You find stuff. Now, what do you do with it?
Right. So my primary focus now is eBay. That generates the most amount of money for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have Macari and Poshmark accounts. I have about 200 items on Macari and about another 100 on Poshmark. Poshmark's I don't really like that platform too much. But my wife loves Poshmark. That's like her platform. And I kind of break it down in like a tiered system. I don't do like the cross listing. Like all my best A1 grade stuff is on eBay. And then I don't know if you're like this, but when I see an item, I can almost say, oh, that's a Poshmark item, or that's a Macari item, or that's an eBay item. That's kind of how my mind works with that stuff. Because I know like video games and movies and stuff like that sells better on Macari for me. But more of clothing and shoes and hats are like my eBay stuff. And then if it's like a boutique type item, or like an example, I had a pair of Adidas slides that had like a flower coral print on them. They're a woman's Adidas slides. I said that's a Poshmark item. I threw them on Poshmark and like they sold immediately. So that's kind of how the game I play with those three platforms. That's just me though.
That's great. You know what's kind of funny is that if it's a really hot item, it's going to sell on any platform,
Right.
right? So let's say something, super hot, 100 sales a day. Let's say it's like a Louis Vuitton purse that's $100 below market. That's going to sell a day, first day. So you could put it on Mercari because it has the least amount of fees.
Yes.
If it's over $500, you might do Mercari or Poshmark because of authentication. So it's kind of an interesting puzzle. eBay, I can't believe how many businesses popped up because eBay has a few faults in it, but it still has the most traffic for secondhand goods. So it's really interesting. There's so many websites like Poshmark. Who would have thought you could just literally all their business came from eBay, in my opinion. They just
Yes.
did it specific, and they also made it more community driven. All these new consumer sellers on the platform. It's very cool.
Right. And another thing about Macari that kind of the light bulb went off one day was I had like an $800 balance on Macari at one
Mm-hmm.
point, and I kept getting these emails like, "Hey, by the way, you have $800 on the account. Why don't you go
Mm-hmm.
shopping?" And I'm like, well, if I'm getting these emails, then the other users on Macari are getting these emails. So they might tend to spend the balance that they have on Macari because it's almost like monopoly money
Mm-hmm.
psychologically. It doesn't really exist. It just kind of it's there on my account. So if there's some on Macari I really want, I'll just use my balance and buy it on Macari instead of taking money out of my bank account or my using my credit card to shop on eBay or Poshmark or whatever. So that's another kind of advantage I like about Macari.
It's I can't believe eBay doesn't have like an eBay debit card
Right.
or leave the money in there. It's confusing because people literally will pay $20, $30 more on Mercari or Poshmark because they have it in their balance.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's why I think if you are going to cross list, it makes sense to price it a little bit higher. So it's funny. Sometimes you price an item a little bit higher on Mercari than eBay. It'll sell and there's less fees. It's a double win, 10% instead of 13%. And then it also, you get that there's sometimes a shipping discount on the heavier stuff on Mercari as well. So it's cool. So let's talk about what is your goal with reselling? Is it your main income? Do you do it as a hobby? How do you approach reselling as far as an income goal?
So it's definitely a hobby because like you like to say it's not a business until I could hand it over to somebody. It's really a hobby. I have kind of my own system. Like I joke with my wife. I said, if something was to happen to me, you would have to find like Nicolas Cage in a treasure map to
Mm-hmm.
try to figure out what I got going on in this garage. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Because it's a system that works for me. She would tell you I'm very unorganized. Like if you see behind me, I have the 27-gallon bins, and that's where I store everything. And I was very unorganized when I first started. I would just say shirts. There's a bin for that. Shoes. There's a bin for that. But I've gotten a lot better now of sorting men's shirts, women's shirts, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts. Like I'm getting better at that. But it's definitely still a hobby. But I am making really good money doing it. Uh, I have a full-time job. I also have a part-time job. I'm a culinary arts instructor at my local university.
Mm.
So I do that as well. So I kind of have three different sources of income, which I really like because I had a mentor that always said, hey, try to have multiple sources of incomes. He owns a barber shop. He owns an apartment complex. He's like you. He has a couple cars that he rents out. He owns like a B&B. So I love that system. I don't think I'll ever quit working full time because I like the advantage of if I buy something and I post it on eBay, I can be patient with that item. I don't need the money. Like I don't need it to sell right now. I can be patient. And offers keep coming in and coming in. And I feel like if it was my only source of income, I might be, more liable to take an offer a little less money just to get some money flowing in. So I think
That's
that's an advantage.
You're my favorite type of reseller because if you do what you're doing, then you could save 100% of the money from reselling. You could invest it into a barber shop where you're never there, and if you live off of your resale income, then it's just this. It's sort of the same as just reselling as your job instead of being. And then also you might be tempted to take $60 on an item that would sell for 100 if you just were able to wait. And you'll
It, it,
see the seasoned resellers sometimes don't even have best offer.
exactly, exactly. And the other thing that I really believe in is reinvesting, right? So
Hmm.
I have the opportunity now to where when I make money, I can put 100% of it right back into the business.
Amazing.
I invested in like I got the Rolo printer, I got the nice ring lights for my photo studio. I got some really nice tables to set up a really organized shipping station. I got a new computer desktop that I moved into the garage with me. I was able to just get all my things going with just profits, and then I was able to buy better items and source better. So I really believe that when you're first starting out, keep it a hobby as long as you can. Reinvest, learn, learn, learn. Like I wouldn't like when I see stories of guys like, hey, I was reselling for 6 months. I decided to go full time. Like that's insane to me. Like I'm like, how are you that confident? Like it's awesome to see that confidence. Like, hey, I think I'm going to go for it. Like I love the confidence, but I just don't see that being very practical to me.
I want to just touch base on this for a second because I feel like there's a misconception that entrepreneurs are risk takers. I don't really see that. When I see people at the top level, they're actually very conservative.
Right.
What they do is they keep their day job, they grow the side income, they don't take any of the money away from their normal savings, they never jeopardize their family's safety, they just hustle on the side, and they buy things that they know are going to sell. The small stores of good stuff, those are the entrepreneurs that typically can grow into two, four, five businesses. The ones, if you just sell anything, rarely does that translate into something that you can grow because I just think I want to let people know who are listening. Entrepreneurs aren't people who just take crazy risks. That's not the average entrepreneur is actually 50 years old. It's
Right.
not a 23-year-old with no capital and no experience starting a coaching business. It's totally, so that's not usually what it looks like.
Yeah, and that goes to say, like, when you hear stories of oh, this person was an overnight success, and they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, overnight success that was 20 years in the making.
That's right. It's always that.
You didn't see the
Yeah.
20 years of work they put into it,
Mm.
and then finally, boom, they got their opportunity, and they were ready for it, and they ran with it because they had been waiting 20 years to get to that point, and they've been preparing. And I think that's the best way to go about it.
Can I ask what your background is before you started reselling as a hobby? Or I mean, what do you
Uh,
do for a living?
right now I'm still active duty military.
Mm.
I'm retiring this year. This is my last year. I've been in the Army for 23 years. So
Wow.
it's
Thank you for
time.
your service.
It's
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
time to go though. It's time to go. My goal was always to do 20 years, and I did a couple extra because we relocated, and I wanted to fulfill my service agreement. Um, but I have a food service background. That's what I do. I have a degree in culinary arts.
Mhm.
Um, and in the Army, I was in charge of food service operations for thousands of soldiers. That's what I did. And it's funny because the biggest joy was when I was cooking. I was serving customers. I was talking, shooting the crap with them, making burgers for them, making omelets in the morning. And then the more rank and the more you progress through, the further away you get from the kitchen. You know what I mean? So now, like, I have an office that's like 5 miles away from the facility where we serve
That's
the
right.
food.
Mhm.
And I'm behind a computer on a desk all day, making plans for future operations and stuff. So I don't want to lose that with reselling. I love being where the rubber meets the road. I like going out and grinding, uh, sourcing. I love shipping too. Like, I love to ship for some reason because I have everything all set up perfect. And like in the cook world, we call it mise en place, which is everything in its place.
Mhm.
So I never have to move more than a few inches from where I'm at when I'm shipping. I
Hmm.
just throw on some like old school hip hop, and I get my zone, and it's really really clears my mind. And that's kind of where the customer service base comes in. I make sure everything's packed nice and neat. It looks really professional. So when the customer gets it, it's almost like a psychological thing. When it's well packaged and everything looks nice and it's safe, it gives them like a better, comfortable feeling that, hey, this seller knows what he's doing, and my stuff got here. He took good care of it before it got to me.
That's some really valuable insight because you're right. In the restaurant industry, the further you move up, the further away from cooking you get.
Right.
As an example, I have a friend that's like a regional manager for PF Chang's, and
Yes.
there's one level above that with whatever district manager. That person usually has zero restaurant experience because they don't actually need restaurant experience. They just need to look
Exactly.
at what are the expenses. It has nothing to do with food.
Right.
So it's funny as a reseller, when people get away into the things like you were mentioning, designing your workspace, looking at reinvestment, that's not related to reselling.
Right.
So
Right.
people kind of feel like it's a disconnect, but you kind of have to do both if you are the owner of your resale hustle. So let's talk about how you balance your family. You have a family, you have a full-time job, you're also a teacher. What does your day look like? How do you plan it?
Right. So I'm lucky now because I'm older. I've been married for 23 years too. She's been with me through this whole Army
Mm,
experience. Very strong woman. You know, I can't give her enough credit. I mean, she pretty much raised the kids. I have 4 kids.
mm,
Three of them are over the age of 16 though, so they're pretty self sufficient. My oldest is 19. She's actually joining the Air Force this summer. So we're still kind of waiting with, how COVID-19 is. They've stopped kind of like shipping new recruits out and stuff. But my son, he's the youngest. He's 11, but he's like a super genius. Well, he's the one that teaches me how to do a lot of the, technical stuff, which is great. Like when I got my new iPhone, I said, hey, help me set up my apps. So I want them all on the same page. I don't want to have to dig through my phone to find any, and he helped me do that. He's a gamer. Like I said, I borrowed his headphones for this. I
mm-hmm.
got his Yeti microphone, so I sound and look good thanks to him. But day to day, so I'm usually up by 5:36 in the morning. I work until about 5 o'clock. I cook dinner every single night,
Wow.
and I make it a priority. We all eat dinner together as a family. I think that's the most important thing. That is that one time during the day when it's like, hey, let's eat together. We're all at least in the kitchen together, and we talk about our days, talk about what's going on. I get filled in with all the high school teenage drama going on or whatever. Um, After that, we all kind of disperse. I play video games with my son a lot because that's his zone. You want to kind of relate to what your children are doing. So I play video games with him. That's how we connect, and then he opens up to me about certain stuff. Usually by about 10 p.m., everybody's in bed, including my wife, and I stay up till midnight. So I have like that 10 p.m. to midnight is just crank it out, crank out time. What do I want to do? Do I want to list? Do I want to make a YouTube video? Do I want to learn? Do I want to, try to source online? I have kind of that 2 hour window where it's no distractions, just me. I try to go as hard as I can for that 2 hours and then go to bed, and it's back on the grind the next day. Weekends, especially Saturdays, were usually my big sourcing days with my wife. She would go with me. And we sometimes spend the whole day Saturday sourcing. And then, Sunday is yard work and housework and laundry and all that other kind of stuff. So not too many sourcing days in my week in a normal period. But right now I'm starting to get into more like Facebook marketplace type things, OfferUp, trying to do some online stuff. I'm not really big into online arbitrage. I do have an Amazon account, and I got like 15 books on it, that are just all merchant fulfilled books. Um, but that's pretty much it. I'm pretty busy. I spend Sunday nights and Wednesday nights dedicated to school because the school's online now. And if you've ever tried to teach like a hot and cold plated dessert class strictly online, like it's hard, man. Like it's really, I'm trying to come up with these creative videos,
Mm-hmm.
and like, because it's a hands-on class. I mean, it's so hard to try to make this an online class, but we're getting through it. My students are really grateful that we're trying. And then just trying to learn that whole online environment of teaching. I've always been hands-on, like, come here, let me show you how to cut this. But now it's all computer-based online, through D2L and all this other craziness. I had to learn all that. So it's been busy, but I like staying busy. I think it keeps me young. I'm 42 now. Staying active, staying busy keeps my mind young, keeps me young. Having kids keeps you young. So
You are
that's
like the American dream. I mean, if I feel like, my generation, I would say 80% of my friends, their parents are divorced. Growing up, they didn't really get to have dinner with their families. It's not that common. What you do is very special to be able to
right.
spend dinner with your family. You cook and you have your day. It's pretty structured. I don't know if that's with your military experience, but like there's buckets. And what you mentioned actually sounds normal to me, which is like when I hear someone say during the day, I do some photography here, do some here, list here, I'm like, that to me doesn't register. I'm like, how do you do that?
Right.
But when I hear people say, I wake up before everyone is up for an hour or two, work on my business, then during the day there is no reselling because I'm busy. Or when people go to sleep, then I work on it. To me, if I feel like that's more sustainable. I don't, because if you were trying to fit your reselling during your day, how would you even do that? It's already so full.
Yeah, and I'm really big on I want to put 100% focus into it.
Mm,
So it's the same way with when I'm planning my class. Like I shut myself off from everything,
hmm
so I can just zone in and focus, and I don't want any distractions at all. And that's when I have that 2 hours at night when everybody's asleep. I know I'm not going to be distracted. Like 100% of my focus can go into whatever I decide to do that night. I have to get better at that though, like scheduling what I need to get done that day. Um, in this time right now, I feel like there's so much more I could be doing because I've already ran through my death pile. Like I have zero things to list anymore.
hmm
So now I'm like, okay, I got to go back through my older listings. Like I still have stuff from when I first started. It just needs to go, like clearanced out or donated, because I didn't know what I was doing back then. I was just grabbing things that I recognized. I was like, oh, that's a Darth Vader shirt. People like Star Wars. I'm gonna get that. I had no clue what I was doing. I jumped right into this without really learning the ropes first. Some of that stuff is still at the bottom of these bins that I have behind me. So I got to get a system together to start digging that stuff out. Like you say, get some mental real estate cleared.
hmm
Like that's super important to me. The more mental real estate I can get, the better for me.
I just added to my list of things to do every day to try to revise at least 5% of my listings. And if you can get into that habit, then over the course of a month or two, you can go through these bins. But if you look
Right.
at it like, I need to redo my store, that's too big of a project. No
It
one's gonna,
is.
when are you gonna get 2 3 days with uninterrupted time to do that? No one's gonna give you that, especially in your
Right.
situation.
Right.
And I love that you are a teacher because that makes sense to me. And so I'm thinking to myself, let's say you wanted to start a catering company or you wanted to open a restaurant. You already have previous experiences to build on. You would understand things need to be set in place. So I love that approach. I feel like you have cooking and military. That's two different experiences that give you a different insight when you're buying stuff to resell.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I have a pretty good eye for stuff now. I grew up a big sneakerhead, of course, being in the Bay Area.
hmm
Growing up, it was just me and my mom. My dad died when I was 14, but I didn't really know him that well. And that's a lot of the reason why I started my YouTube channel was more for like family legacy. Because if my grandkids ask my daughter, "Hey, what was Grandpa like when he was younger, or what did he do?" They could show them on YouTube. Like, "Oh, here's your grandpa. This is what his personality was like." Like I can't do that for my kids with my dad because there's little known like photographs of him. I don't have any stories because I didn't know him that well. My mom has a few stories of him, and that's always kind of that missing piece that I've always had my whole life. Never having a father growing up. But I really got into the sneaker culture when I was in the Bay Area growing up. We couldn't afford a whole lot. My mom did her best, but I always got like the Pro Wings. You remember the Pro Wing shoes? Used to
I
go to
remember
Payless
them.
shoe stores to get the Pro Wings.
hmm
Like that's what moms would get, the Pro Wing shoes. And I was like, okay, I can't go to school wearing Pro Wings. I got to find a way around this. So I started working for my uncle. He had a firewood cutting business. I got a job at an auto shop where I was cleaning dirty rags and sweeping up oil with cat litter just so I could save up some money, so I can get a pair of Nikes or British Knights or whatever was popping that year. And that's kind of how this whole thing started. Like I've been grinding like my whole life, it seems like. Um, and that always has stuck with me. I'm still a sneakerhead to this day. It's kind of the one vice that I have. Like I will spend some money on some sneakers. So um, that's kind of where I want my business to go in the future. Because I look at people like Renzi now, and
hmm
Clutch Swag. I know you know really well.
hmm
They're like strictly 100% sneakers almost. And I think Renzi has like almost 10,000 listings on Poshmark now, and it's mostly sneakers. Like
hmm
that's where I really want to get into. Sneakers and hats are my two favorite things to sell. And hats are selling really good right now because it's the summertime. People are out cutting lawns. They want to have a hat to protect the dome piece. So look at getting into hats. They're really easy to store. I have like 100 hats and it's in one bin. So sneakers and hats are my favorite things in the world. Um, and I think it's a lot easier when you start sourcing things you love because you'll put more time and energy into it. You could tell me, hey, women's sweatshirts are the hottest seller right now. I'd be like, okay, whatever. Like I might look through a couple. Find something that you're passionate about, and you'll be that much better when you're trying to find those things.
I love that advice because if you're gonna figure out why people are successful, really it's just like how long they've been doing it. It's not, and if you like it, you're more likely to do it anyway. Like I love
Right.
sneakers. I always say I like sneakers more than people because they're more interesting to me.
Right.
There's no drama. It's just cool, and there's some history behind it. So when I look at that, um, the passion, it comes from the search for it, and then also learning the trends. When you find out that Rinzi does like a good tutorial on if you present the shoes nicer, not only do you feel better about what you're actually doing, but customers appreciate it. They have customers who only buy sneakers from them. You develop a reputation.
Right.
It's very cool looking at how they do it. And then Kevin, the Clutch Swag, he's very process driven, and he has never even thought about quitting his job.
Yeah,
even
exactly.
even
Yeah.
though his store, he has a multiple six-figure eBay store,
Right.
zero interest in quitting his job.
Exactly.
And you hear that, and it's like, oh, cool. And then using that money to invest in the different income streams. So let's talk about something a little bit different. Let's say I came by and picked up all your stuff, bought it in one big deal, and you get to start over. What would you do with no inventory? How would you
Uh,
with what you know now?
yeah. So I would start with kind of like how I started anyway. I started this whole thing with selling stuff around the house.
Mm-hmm.
I started with a big lot of my son's old PS4 games because he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really, he got more into computer games and things like that. So his PS4 just kind of collect dust for a little while. And I went in there one day, I'm cleaning around his room, and I said, hey, what's up with these games? Like, do you play these anymore? And he's like, no, I don't play them anymore. So I got them together. I had heard about Macari. It might have been like when Gary Vee was doing a trash talk or something, and he was just naming off different sites to go on. I knew about eBay. I've been on eBay since like 2013, but I just had an account. I wasn't really selling a whole lot of stuff. But when I heard about this Macari thing and I checked it out and I saw how it is like the easiest app to figure
So
out.
easy. Yeah.
If you're a brand new seller, like that's the one I would start with for sure. So I threw the games up there. I put, I just came up with a number because I saw, well, this game's selling for this game's selling for that. I'm just going to lot them all together because, back in the day, we used to take our stuff to GameStop. They'd give us like $1.50 each. And I'm like, nah, these are in really good condition. I'm going to see what Macari will give me. And I sold them for $75. And so, I got like around $60 or whatever total profit from it. And that's what when I cashed that $60 out, I took that 60 and I was just off and running. And I've built this entire thing from that $60. I've never dipped once into my personal account, uh, anything else. Every penny I've ever spent from this reselling game has been from that initial $60 investment. So that's like my proudest achievement ever. And so that's what I would do. And I have a lot of shoe inventory in my closet. I got shoes I don't wear that I wouldn't mind getting rid of. So I'd probably start there. And, I have a lot of really sought after sneakers. I got Yeezys, I got Jordans. I would probably start with that. Like, okay, which of these shoes can I part with?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I would go. And then I would probably just try to stay on that line of shoes. And then I'd be happy camper.
Yeah, I think about now I just like a nice rotation, but I used to want all of it. Once it's
Right,
just like,
right.
I remember
I still
meeting,
I still want all of it.
I know, I meet sneakerheads that are like, I want all of them. And I'm just
Yes,
like, it never ends. It's a really fun hobby. And it also, collecting anything teaches your kids, teaches you how to be frugal, how to
right.
manage your money. If I had known about the secondhand market when I was in high school, like your kids know about it now, they're gonna be much better with their money.
Yes,
It's
and
gonna,
yes, definitely. They're on it now. I got my
yeah, they're on
oldest
it now.
daughter.
Yeah.
She's selling on Depop. That's her favorite site. She threw a lot of stuff up on Depop, and like she sold out. Like it's gone. She sold her whole closet already, and so she got that bug now. Like she's got the itch to do it now. So I seen her last night. She was in her closet just throwing stuff over her shoulder
Hmm.
because I mean I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's around 30-40% of most people's closets they just don't wear anymore.
Definitely.
Um, I know it definitely applies to me. I mean, I got 60, 70 t-shirts. Like I don't wear all 60 or 70 t-shirts.
Nope.
So like if things got really bad and I needed to come up with some quick money, I wouldn't be worried. I would just start selling out everything that's in my closet
Hmm.
because I know how to do that now. I know it's an opportunity that is available to us. And that's why I want to try to get the message out to your viewers and everyone else. Like start there. Start with there are things in your closet you don't wear, I promise. There are things in your kitchen you don't use. Look through your coffee mugs. Um, Look at trends on Macari. Like right now, video games and Legos and puzzles and board games, those are hot items right now. I just saw a listing of a Nintendo Switch sold for $250 and it was used with a broken fan. So if you got your son a Nintendo Switch for Christmas and he's just not into it and he's not playing it anymore, like there's a $250 opportunity right there. So I don't know how else to just try to get people to do this,
I
but it's
love
there.
that. I love that you bring up like your daughter reselling because for her, she's probably never gonna pay retail again
Right. Yes.
because she's already now, the likelihood of her not understanding the value of something is really different. So now you'll see kids. I was listening to some kids talking about like 13-year-olds at a coffee shop saying that like, do you see how your pastries are priced? Like, do you even know there's other stores with the same stuff for less? Like talking to the owner, like kids in junior
Right.
high that are like business oriented kids. They're like,
Right.
do you want to sell these muffins? Because we'll never buy them from you. You need to look. Go outside and look at this neighborhood. It's so interesting that kids are.
Yeah, I
I
saw
never
that.
thought about that.
I saw that when I went to SneakerCon Atlanta,
Hmm.
and there was a booth where it was a 15-year-old kid, and he was there with his mom. And I was talking to the lady. I was like, "Hey, she's like, oh, you got to ask him. This is his booth. I'm just here." And I said, "Bro, this is your setup?" He's like, "Yeah. What you want? What you got? What you need? I got you, man." And I'm like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah.
There's this 15-year-old kid selling and he had the hottest sneakers available. Like, how'd you get your hand on these?
Hmm.
And that blew my mind. And thankfully, I had my son with me. We went to SneakerCon together, and he was like, "Wow, that kid was really making money." I said, "Yeah, I mean, the opportunities are out there."
I just met this 17-year-old girl, and she had a brand new Audi from reselling, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
"What's your secret?" She's like, "Low overhead. I live with my parents still." And I was thinking,
exactly.
it's so funny. She recognizes that she's
Low
like, "I'm
overhead.
not I'm not paying rent."
Yep,
So it's just interesting as a kid. They know, like, used to not be cool to live at home with your parents. Now you see kids making more money than their parents. There's a 16-year-old that pays his family's mortgage, and I'm like,
yep.
how? How do you
Right.
raise a kid like that?
Yeah, I know. It's
It's
incredible.
incredible. You're looking at all these interesting puzzles that people are doing. So let's talk about something that you're really good at. Did you, or maybe a cool item that you found that your history helped you find?
Okay, so I think one thing I'm really good at, I'm really good at talking to people. I really believe in building relationships. Uh, there's a thrift store. It's like a local thrift store downtown. I don't know who owns it. It might be like a privately owned thrift store, but I go in there a lot. I talk to the managers a lot. I'm real personable with the cashiers. I crack jokes. I compliment their shoes. I compliment their outfits. Oh, your hair looks great today. How you doing today? How are things? How's business? And when you do that, you kind of you build a relationship where they're going to allow you to negotiate a little bit better. And I tell the story about I found this leather jacket, and they wanted like 18, $19 for it, and I was like, "Hey man, I'll give you 12. How about we take the price down to 12?" and I'll buy this and I'll buy this. And they're like, yeah, just give it to him. Give it to him for 12. It's fine. He's in here all the time. Just give it to him. And I like, I think it plays a big part in garage selling as well. Um, People are scared to negotiate, I think. I know some people, a lot of times I'll pay the price if I know it's an item that's worth a lot. I'll just pay what they're asking because they don't know. But sometimes I'll try to lot a bunch of things together. Like I'll get a box together and I'll just put a bunch of stuff in it, and I'll say I'll take the whole box for $20. Just I think that's a skill that I've gained because of customer service and dealing with people. I think that's people are scared to compliment each other nowadays. But the biggest score I had was actually it was one day I went sourcing. I found 3 items. One was an old clicker jacket. Have you heard of the clicker jackets? I think Lakeland makes them. They're from the 50s. They're like the hot rod, like James Dean, 100% wool jackets. I found one. And I also found a Navy midshipman like wool jacket, 100% wool jacket that the Navy issues their sailors. And then I found a pair of Forum Mid Adidas that were like this crazy rare colorway. They're like a blue and yellow colorway. I found those 3 items in the same day. And I spent like $35 total on all 3 of them. And I listed them and I sold all 3 of them the next weekend for like a total of $300. So that was like my favorite flip ever, because it was like the trifecta. It was like the 3 items all sold, massive profits on all 3 at the same time. So that's when I knew. And all 3 of those I didn't even look them up. I saw it. I felt the material. I saw it was 100% wool. The Navy jacket I recognized just because I've dealt with the Navy before. I knew it was an official jacket. And then, like I said, with sneakers, I already kind of know the sneaker culture, and I knew the Adidas with the big Fleur de Lis thing on it. That's a popular brand. So I just snatched all 3 of them up. Didn't look at comps, didn't look at nothing. Threw them in the cart, and I checked out. And I ended up being right. So it was a little ego boost at the same time. I was like, hey, maybe I know what I'm doing. This is pretty cool. So
There's a lot of nuggets in there, especially being able to talk to people. Like even as simple as asking, like, "Can I get a nice guy discount?" They'll be like, "I don't know about that. You don't seem that nice." Get
yeah. Yeah,
something going.
you got to compliment them first.
Do
Make them feel
something.
good first.
Yeah,
Yes.
make them feel good. I went thrifting with this older lady, and she was being nice, talking to the person. Then she asked for the young lady discount, and the guy was just like, "That's awesome," and just gave her this huge
Awesome. Yeah.
discount. And I'm like, because it's just you want to help people who are nice.
Right. You
If you're
do.
working customer service and someone's like, um, you know, this isn't going that well for me, but how's it going? How's your day? You're going to be way more likely to help that person.
Right.
You help people who are nice. That's like the most common. If you're looking for networking, for a person who's known as nice or helpful, and for you also having the background of being service oriented, both the military and anything related to culinary is service oriented.
Yes.
You're different.
And plus,
Built
you
different.
don't know what people are going through.
No.
People always have something going on. Everybody has something, and it's very rare that people are just out of the blue. Just smiling to somebody. How you doing? How's it going? You might have been the only person that asked them that all day.
Mm-hmm.
And they might be thinking to themselves like, man, I don't think anybody really even cares about me. I got my hair done. No one's noticed. I got these new, Nike Vapors on. No one's noticed. Some people, that's what they care about. So I make it a point to be like, oh man, because, I like that shirt where it says I make shoe contact before I make eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
That's me all day. And I'll be
Yep.
like, oh, those are the Nike Vapors, nice shoes, man. Where'd you
Mm-hmm.
get those? And they're like, oh, thanks for noticing. Yeah, yeah. And they tell you the whole story. And then you just see their whole face light up and it brightens their day. And I think we just need more of that. We just need more of it.
For sure. So I want to commend you on starting your own gig and also starting with no money. I think Gary Vee talks about everyone having $2,000 worth of stuff in their house lying around. I agree with that.
I agree with
At
that too.
least. So don't spend a bunch of money when you're just starting. You don't have to. If you're just a little bit disciplined and don't touch that money, just think about that money as inventory money. And if you spend
Right.
time learning sources, After a little while, you're not going to have a problem finding stuff. That's only a problem for people who are just getting started. After a while, you end up having too much stuff. So
And
it's just
I think there's a fear because I did a video where I just grabbed a t-shirt out of my closet. I walked it straight out into my driveway. It was a nice sunny day. The driveway concrete was my background. I took a picture of the front, a picture of the back, a picture of the size tag, and the pictures actually turned out really good. Like concrete makes a pretty good background, especially on a sunny
pretty
day.
good. Hmm.
And I said, here we go. We got 3 pictures. Let's go on eBay. What are the comps for this shirt? Oh, look, one of these exact shirts sold for $20 free shipping. So we're going to throw this on there, and that's for our starting point. $20 free shipping, boom. That's just one shirt from one person in your house. You know, you got your kids, you got your wife, you got things in your garage that are stacked up. There's things everywhere, and it's so. And I try to make it as simple as possible, and try to get it out of your head that some people are like, oh, no one wants to buy this old thing. Yes, they do. They want to buy that old thing. Trust me, put it on eBay. Someone out there is looking for that old thing that you think no one's going to buy.
I agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. So how do people find you if they want to reach out to you to ask you questions or your YouTube channel?
Right. So I'm Mess Hall Digs on YouTube. I am Mess underscore Hall underscore shop on Instagram. Uh, and I just started a TikTok. You know, it's more of kind of having fun on TikTok though, with my kids trying to learn these dances and stuff, you know.
Hmm.
So that's kind of just a fun mess around. But I'm Mess Hall Digs on TikTok as well.
Sweet. All right, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to follow and subscribe to all the channels below. I'll link them below. And if you guys have any questions, reach out directly. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, make progress daily.